Sponsored by McCann's, getting you back on two wheels when it wasn't your fault.
Hello, so we're here today at the Triumph factory in Hinckley for a bit of a sneak peek ahead of the launch in a couple of weeks of this Triumph Daytona 765 MotoGP Limited Edition. And I'm joined by Stuart, Chief Engineer, I believe, to tell us a little bit about this bike. So this is essentially a Moto2 bike for the road.
Yeah, that's what we planned. Great opportunity. We've obviously been supplying the engines for Moto2 all year. We know how much people love the standard engine in the Street Triple.
Yeah.
So great opportunity to develop an engine from the Moto2 engine to put in a Daytona.
I guess what are some of the challenges of taking that Moto2 bike and converting it to a road model?
It's a very different thing. The Moto2 environment, although the guys are using those engines very, very hard, it's quite a controlled environment. The engines are supplied, they do a few race weekends, then the teams give them back for a refresh, get another engine, and the engines are cycled. So the engines are well looked after and professionally serviced. With a production bike, you're looking at a 2-year unlimited mileage warranty,
of course.
6,000 mile service intervals, but the bike still needs to be track ready.
Right.
Okay, so if you want a track day or ride in a spirited fashion, the bike's ready for you.
So you anticipate people giving them a bit of a thrashing, probably?
I think people are going to love the bike for everything that it is.
Yeah.
The way the road manners are impeccable. It's a lovely bike to ride everywhere, but it's absolutely focused at the track.
And what were some of the changes? I think you said it revs out at pretty much 1,000 more revs than the previous version. What are some of the internal changes there to make that happen?
Okay. Over and above what we have with the Moto2 engine, we've gone for a higher tech, higher spec piston material and different machining. We machine the rods differently. We're using a higher spec crankshaft material as well. Right. So there's a lot of sort of basic structural components that are stronger, but still the same weight as the Moto2 engine.
Okay.
We've tuned the intake ports, the machining of the throats and the ports. We've got different cams. The tune is completely different. Right. There's a lot of development work that's gone into making this bike both powerful, torquey, responsive, but also road legal. It obviously has to pass all the homologation to get it on the road.
Of course, yeah. You spoke a little bit about the chassis as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about the development process for that, or kind of lack thereof?
Well, it's interesting because this is such a refined chassis, the Daytona, and it's a sort of a circular story, really. When we started the Moto2 project, we needed a mule bike to develop the engine, to give the engine a hard time. So we used the Daytona chassis. When we look back at watching the Moto2 riders at the same circuits that we tested on, when they initially got to those circuits, they were doing similar lap times to what we were doing with our mule bike.
Right.
And we've also got another validation or a cross-check that when we found out what geometries they're using, they're very, very close to the Daytona anyway. Right. So we've got a very refined handling motorcycle that's set up for the road. It's set up to be a really secure, inspiring, sort of ride on the road. But also we've got all that precision and agility on the track as well.
It's been a few years since we've seen a Daytona, so things have moved on in terms of tech, as they do in motorcycling, very quickly. This is up there, though. There's a lot of new features in that department here.
Yeah, well, we can start with the ride-by-wire.
Yeah.
So the engine now, the throttle control is by wire, which allows us to do all sorts of things. It allows us to have different throttle maps. It allows us to have different traction control maps, and we also have different ABS, anti-lock braking maps as well. With the electronics, we can bunch those as rider modes.
Yeah.
So you can have a track-specific mode, road, rain, sport, or a configurable mode where you can build your own modes that you want.
Yeah.
And in track mode, for example, we've got a track-specific ABS setup that allows you the safety net of ABS without the intervention. So if you're a quick track day rider, you probably won't feel the ABS. But if someone else on that track day does something daft and you just have to grab the brakes, you'll be glad you've got it. But you'll be glad you've got it. So the electronics are fantastic, really intuitive to use. Just a simple joystick on the left-hand switch cube. Everything displayed on the TFT instruments. We've got the Öhlins front and rear. It's beautiful suspension, works exquisitely well, and it all just adds to that precision. It's all about precision, feel, and control. The Brembo brakes we've taken further. They're the Stylema calipers. We've selected even more aggressive friction material pads for those as well, because we want this bike to have real track level of performance.
Okay.
So it all matches. The engine response is more. We've got more torque, we've got more power right the way through the rev range than the previous Daytona. It's the first time we've used the 765 engine, and that engine makes more power. So everything is put together as a package to give a really intuitive ride.
And the Arrow exhaust, that's specifically developed for this particular bike?
Absolutely. It's a titanium race can, but it is road legal.
Okay.
It's actually designed, we've got catalysts, the bike is fully road legal, yet ready for the track.
Would you mind if we heard the bike started up so we can just hear that exhaust?
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you. Sounds all right.
Okay.
765 of these for Europe, I believe, and then 765 for the Americas. Are there any particularly big differences between those two models? Or?
No, they're very small differences for homologation requirements. We painted them slightly different colour schemes, but in Europe you will just see this colour scheme.
And I assume you've taken one for a spin.
Absolutely.
So what can people expect from how this bike rides, especially those, there's a very dedicated 675 fan base. How will it feel different to them?
Hard to describe just how much better
Right.
than Daytona. It'll be completely familiar with the precision, the handling precision, and the agility. That's all there. The tyres are phenomenal. The braking is at another level, but the engine is just absolutely sublime. Because you've got more power, more torque, and better response. So you can drive out of corners harder. You can basically ride in different ways on the track, and this is what we're seeing with the Moto2 riders, that they're actually adapting their riding style to suit the engine. It is a very high torque, highly responsive engine.
One kind of thing to wrap up on, this is not Euro 5 compliant, so I expect that means that we won't see a production version, which some people have been potentially a bit excited about.
Okay. Well, this is a limited edition.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to homologate this bike as it is. It's the closest you're going to get to a Moto2 bike on the road.
Yeah.
And you better get on the phone to your dealer pretty quickly if you're interested.
It's an opportunity to own a very special bike, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, thank you very much to Stuart for talking to us today, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing this really special bike.
Sponsored by McCams, getting you back on two wheels when it wasn't your fault.